All I can say to start this show is Merry Christmas, everybody, or Happy Holidays.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama, HSA's radio network. Luke Robinson, that's me. Bama Online's Jimmy Stein, that's him. This episode is brought to you by GameTime. I'll tell you about GameTime here in just a bit. Thank you, everydayers, for being here every day. Thank you, newbies, for being here today. And also want to say yesterday was kind of funny. I walked in on my daughter. I was kind of sneaking around, and she was in this office that I sit in. And she and a friend were pretending like they were doing their own podcast called Online Alabama. And she said something like, I'm Sheila Robinson, and I call games sometimes, and I'm here to talk about how mad I am with the Alabama players against Vanderbilt because Vanderbilt doesn't have even good football players. And I said, please don't let the Locked On people hear this. She's better than we are. Okay. Jimmy, let's talk a little bit. We just got some
you need to tape her and her friend doing that. That just needs to be our episode tomorrow. It'd probably be our highest rated one.
I do need to get Sheila her own podcast. If any of you are friends of mine on Facebook, you know, like Sheila's kind of a thing. But anyway, the impact guys we got from the portal. I said it yesterday that I think Hill Green will make the biggest impact. I think Horton will be the fan favorite. And I think that Dewberry is probably the most needed. I think that's probably the best way to go. But why don't you expound on these guys a little bit more and talk about, what do you think they're going to bring to the table next year? And by the way, it should be noted, there will be somebody asking, it's not a stupid question. None of them can play in the bowl game. So I just want to get that out of the way because I even heard a national show talking about it today. They were unsure, and the host said, no, they can't play in the bowl game. Talking about any of these transfers. So they can't play in the bowl game, so don't expect to see them.
Yeah, all right. And we get that question every year, so it must be a good question because it's asked every year. But no, the portal guys aren't eligible until spring practice. And it's just literally because they haven't enrolled. High school players that have already gone through the enrollment process, they're enrolled so they can practice. The high school players can practice. And why? Because they haven't played for another college team this year. This year is still ongoing until the bowls are completed. But in terms of Alabama's five guys, on offense, I agree with Luke that Isaiah Horton's going to be the most popular, and that's because he's going to have the ball in his hands. So it's just easier to, there's a reason in fantasy football that those are the guys that you draft. I mean, nobody drafts an inside linebacker. They're a fantasy football team. It's all, quarterbacks, running backs, and receivers that have the ball in their hands. Isaiah Horton is going to be, I think will ultimately prove to be Alabama's third best receiver behind Ryan and Germ. We really didn't have a third receiver this past year. No one really stepped up. I mean, you'd get glimpses of Cole Adams, and then maybe Kobe Prentice would make a catch, and then maybe K-Law, and maybe Emmanuel Henderson. But all these guys kind of stepped up and then receded quickly into the bushes. It's more, I think Isaiah Horton's going to bring some consistency and sort of be that consistent third guy. So that's big. Cam Dewberry, as Luke said, and I agree here, if Cam Dewberry wins the left guard spot, he becomes the most valuable guy in this portal group because that's where Alabama's got to get better. That's where Alabama's got to be good, is in that offensive line. I'm just not sure Dewberry's going to win it. He might. I'm the last guy that likes to bet on true freshmen. I mean, I'm the guy that sort of I hype them up during recruiting and then immediately water down expectations when they arrive. But I kind of like Michael Carroll winning that left guard spot. Now, Dewberry is a senior with more experience, and it would be crazy if Carroll could beat him out, but he might. I mean, that's how good he is. But Dewberry has a good chance to be the Alabama's left guard, and if he is, Luke's right, he may be the most valuable guy in this five-man class. Now, defensively, I see Cam Calhoun as a depth piece initially. Now, depth under the Saban regime meant, okay, we'll see you during bowl practices next year.
Or blowouts.
Big
time blowouts.
Exactly. Up by 5 touchdowns and there's a minute left. DeBoer didn't do it that way at all. DeBoer plays more players at all the spots. So if you're a second team corner, I mean, think how much you guys saw Jalen Mbakwe. How much did y'all see Deshaun Jones? How much did you see Zay Mincy at corner and then safety? These guys were playing every week, even when the game was not decided. So you'll see Cam Calhoun next year. I just don't think he's going to, knock Damani Jackson or Xavier Brown out of their starting cornerback spots. Kelby Collins will be in the defensive line rotation. You can pencil that in right now. I mean, there'll be about 7 or 8 guys playing with the defensive line rotation, but he'll be one of them. Probably at the bandit spot. Could slide him inside if you have a need there, but I think he's coming here to play bandit, and that's where Alabama would like to play him. It's just that Alabama's got a couple of interesting bandits, especially if LT Overton, returns, which is expected, by the way. And finally, my favorite of the 5 is Nakai Hill-Green, just simply because I see him filling Jahad Campbell's hole, assuming Campbell goes to the NFL, which everyone believes. And I think Hill-Green's going to be great. I know there's a lot of, we need to talk about this, and we should include it as a segment. We'll shoehorn it in here. But there's a good chance Justin Jefferson may return. That's not a lock, by the way. Too many people online are talking about this as a lock. I would think it's something I would call probable in terms of a Justin Jefferson return based on the JUCO ruling by the court yesterday. So I think Justin Jefferson might return. But here's where I'm about to become very unpopular. And I don't mind because I'm unpopular all the time with my takes. But I'm not sure Justin Jefferson would beat out Nakai Green-Hill. I mean, I think Green-Hill is really good. I mean, this is a 2-time all-conference player. He's a 6th-year guy. He was highly recruited. He played for Michigan out of high school. I'm not sure that Justin Jefferson's better. Now, thankfully, I hope Jefferson returns and they have a competition because that's what produces the best player possible. So that's the good news for Alabama. Justin Jefferson returns. Now there's real competition. Lawson, Green-Hill, Jefferson, Jeremiah Alexander, Justin Okoronkwo. I mean, you got some real competition there. So that's great news. But I think I'm so high on Nakai Green-Hill, Luke, that I think he would beat out Jefferson and be one of our primary 2 linebackers alongside Deontay Lawson.
Hey, love to see it. Somebody did reach out to me via Twitter and say this. Now, I haven't checked this out, but he said he had been watching some Hill-Green footage from this year at Colorado, and he said at different games, he seemed to walk with a noticeable limp. And he was like, is he injured, or is that just sort of his style, his swagger? And
I don't know.
I don't have an answer. I haven't heard a thing about him.
I haven't heard that he's injured. I haven't heard that he's injured. He might have. I mean, all these guys play hurt. I mean, heck, Proctor's been a big, discussion point for us leading up to the Michigan game because he's hurt, and he's going to play apparently. You get late in the year, they're all banged up. I mean, you can't play this many college games and be feeling as well as you did before Western Kentucky. It's just impossible.
No, that's true. I mean, I don't know anything about that. I think he's fine. So and also the other interesting thing, and I learned this from BOL, that Alabama kicked the tires on him last year before he transferred to Colorado. And, in the end, he decided to go to Colorado, or Bama decided not to pursue as much, or however you want to spin it. But now he's back at Alabama. So it's not like this is some kind of new panic move. I think this is a guy Alabama kept an eye on all year, and then decided, okay, he's made the move, so we'll go with that. And we're going to tell you now about FanDuel. Man, appreciate FanDuel so much, being such a great sponsor these many years. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with 250 smacks and bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. I love betting on which players will score a touchdown and how many points each team will score. It's thrilling, and it makes the game a lot more fun. You can have all these different ways, those ways I just mentioned and more, to make some money on FanDuel. It's a lot of fun. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at 250 smacks and bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports partner of the NFL.
There should be NFL games on today. There should be.
Not today, tomorrow.
I know there is.
There were tomorrow. Just had one last night and it stunk.
I'm like the worst Christmas guy ever when I say stuff like this, but there should be more football on during Christmas.
Well, tomorrow is Christmas, and tomorrow I think there are 2 games, or 3 games. I don't know.
They're on Netflix, and while I'm new to streaming, the streaming
world,
I don't have Netflix.
Well, if Netflix couldn't handle a Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight, how are they going to handle an NFL game, which usually draws more than anything? That's what I worry about.
That's a good question. That's a good question.
But okay, Zion Gibson, the number 4 player in the state of Alabama for 2026, a defensive back, very, very talented kid out of Gadsden City, very, very good player in the top 70 according to On3, number 69 player, number 69 player in the state, or excuse me, in the country for 2026. Right behind Tank Jones, Sadarian Morgan from God's Country, Alexander City, Alabama, and Hezekiah Harris, who's committed to Auburn. And then, interestingly enough, Vodney Cleveland is right behind Gibson, who just decommitted from Alabama. But I know Alabama's still going to be involved. But in the end, because we may not get to do another podcast for a day or two because of Christmas and family and all that, we feel very confident Zion Gibson will be committing to Alabama today. Correct, Jimmy?
Yeah, we do. BOL made that prediction. I think BOL, we've been leaning to that for a long time and then officially predicted it not too long ago. So that's the official prediction. And the batting average is good on those predictions. Now, I'm sure don't bat 1,000. No one does. But I feel confident that this is going to be Alabama. Then the question becomes, can you hold on to him for 12 months? This is a kid that won't be signing until December of 2025. So you have literally a calendar year to hold on to him. But he's in state, grew up an Alabama guy. Close to Dre Kirkpatrick. They were teammates at Gadsden. So I think this is one I would give Alabama a strong chance of holding on, even though he's very highly rated. Like Luke said, 70 right now. Obviously, rankings are in their infancy for the 2026 class. So don't make too much of rankings right now at all. You'd be making a major mistake if you did that. But it's still a guideline. It's still something to like, well, if he's 70 right now, there's a good chance he's going to be 70 or higher as we go. And when you watch his tape, you see why. I'm still waiting, by the way, on recent tape. All the tape I've seen of this kid is 10th grade. But to show how great he is, I watch his 10th grade tape, and I'm like, yeah, this is a dude. Really, what stands out to me, Luke, really is size here. He has length and those long arms. I mean, he looks, even his 10th grade tape, he looks like an SEC cornerback is supposed to look. He is in such good position all the time. If you go watch his huddle tape, and I'll recommend fans doing that just because, hey, I mean, I know not everybody's seen a million kids on huddle like I have, but I think you can, the more huddle you watch, the more you know what you're looking for. And here's the thing with Zion, even though it's 10th grade tape, when the ball is thrown, he is always in a great position. And it's because of his athleticism. He doesn't get beat. I mean, now I know these are highlight plays and no one's showing the plays where he screwed up on a highlight play. I get that. But highlight clips still show you athleticism, length, size, instincts. It's all that stuff. I mean, he is in a position to defend every pass that's thrown to the target. And that's what stands out to me about him. He just has a real feel for playing cornerback and has the length and athleticism to make a difference. What's Christmas without a mute? No, you're just trying.
I mean, it's like
you're trying not to disturb your family.
If there is a Christmas miracle, it would have been a Christmas miracle for me to not mute today. It really would have been.
It's a Festivus miracle.
Okay, so you did bring up something interesting to me. The first huddle tape dude player, whoever is like, okay, y'all seen all my highlights. Here's my screw ups. That may get a gazillion views for the honesty. And like, I know it's stupid and counterintuitive and probably counterproductive. But if I were a coach, I'd be like, okay, I like this kid. Like he's got to have because the thing, most people, you got to have a short memory as a defensive back and all that. But like this guy's is saying, I'm human,
right?
And I'm going to screw up. Now I've got a bunch of highlights, but here's about 4 or 5 things where I really screwed up. I mean, for instance, Naheem Alford in the state championship game got toasted twice.
Yeah.
Toasted. But I don't think any less of Naheem Alford for those things. I mean, people kept saying, because if you remember, he had just chosen Oregon, I think maybe either that day or the day before. And so I knew some Auburn folks that were like, well, maybe he's not as good as we thought. And I was like, that dude's a dude, man. I don't know what to tell you. He's playing against Saraland, who's really good. And they've got a quarterback going to Texas, and they've got receivers that'll be going to SEC level schools. So, yeah, I mean, he's going to get burned sometimes. Overall, though, I take Naheem Alford 100 times out of 100. But how much respect would you give somebody that said, y'all seen all my highlights? Here's 4 of my screw-ups.
I love that myself. And how about this? Here's some inside baseball for you listeners. For a while, when I was at QB Country, one of the things that I did a few times, not as much as the coaches did, but sometimes I would be tasked with editing a player's highlight tape. And this is what we do. The huddle tapes, the highlight tapes you see are shot by and edited by the high school coaches. So like when you're watching Zion Gibson's huddle from Gadsden City, that was shot by Gadsden City's staff, and they put together a highlight tape for him. Let's say if he was a quarterback and was at QB Country, one of the things that you can do when you're on huddle is you can manipulate your own huddle and edit it and reorder or delete. You can reorder or delete the plays that are on the tape. So that's what we would do. And we went by a few rules at QB Country, and it would be a little different position to position, but two rules of thumb. Number one, coaches have a short, hey, they're flying through huddle tapes. You better have your best play first. Put the best play on your highlight tape first. If you have a wow play, you need that right out of the gate, because you know what that's going to do? They're going to watch the second play. If they see the first play and go, wow, now they're watching the second play. You wouldn't believe how fast some coaches go through this stuff, and they're like, no.
That's cool. That's a cool story.
Needs to be a wow thing. So that's first. Secondly, and here's some base. Look, if let's say that you're a DB and the thought is this guy can't run, your first clip needs to be, okay, on which one of these tapes does it look like you have real speed? Because there's some questions about whether you can run. So we're going to put the fast play first. Now, there's all this talk out there about, oh, that huddle tape is sped up. First of all, we can't do that, or I couldn't do that. Secondly, if you're you can't speed up one player and slow down everybody else. Everybody else is going to look fast too. I never understood that, but regardless, that's some insight into how those huddle tapes are put together.
That made me think about, put your best stuff first. And again, it used to be, if you're telling a story, you save the big ending, right? The grand finale. But you remember when Scream came out, the horror film, like in the 90s, and of course they've had a bazillion of them since then, and practically none of them been good. But the first Scream ever, and I'm not a horror movie guy, but I went with a girlfriend at the time. We didn't know much about the film. There wasn't a lot of hoopla about it. And we go to see it, and I'm like, oh, Drew Barrymore's in this. Oh, my God, Drew Barrymore's dead. I was like, what is happening? And all of a sudden, I was drawn into the movie because I was like, oh, if Drew Barrymore can die in the first scene, anybody can. That's movies, the same kind of thing.
10 movies, the best scene was the first scene of the first movie.
Yeah.
And then it's all downhill from there.
And even if it is all downhill, you're sucked in. Like you're going to stay because you're like, oh, Henry Winkler's going to get it next? What?
Somebody out there on their huddle tape thinks, well, I'm gonna end with the grand finale.
I'm going to Drew Barrymore at the end.
They're not getting that far. These coaches aren't getting to the end of your tape unless there's good plays at the front of the tape. Now, one other thing I'll say is, I'm okay watching huddle tape. I'm not going to brag. I'm okay. I can evaluate some players at some positions okay watching huddle. I have a better batting average for my local kids. You know why? Because I go to the games. When you actually go to and watch a kid play a whole football game with your own eyeballs and you're right there, my batting average is much better in knowing whether a player's going to be great, good, or bad based versus huddle, because you are getting such a condensed, smaller version. But there's just, Nick Saban called them critical factors, and you got to know what critical factors to look for. And frankly, it has very little to do with production. Like oh, wow, that's a 70-yard touchdown run. I don't care. What I'm looking for is, are you big and fast? And what you do, is that going to translate to the next level? Because I see kids all the time in high school that are really good high school players, but they're not going to translate well to the next level, usually over size speed issues, frankly.
Time for some game time. Game time is the best. I may use game time. I'm hoping to go to the Peach Bowl. My son got media credentialed for it from Arizona. He goes to Arizona State, as y'all know, and he writes for Sun Devil Daily, and he's going to go sit in the press box. And I might go by myself, or might take some of my other 19 children to the game. And if I do that, I want to do it via game time because I got the best prices guaranteed. And maybe I'll get them to download the app, and then I can get $20 off using promo code LockedOnCollege.
Making money.
Saving so much money, but I've used it for everything. I've used it for MLB, World Series, NBA, NFL, college football, college basketball, college baseball, concerts, because game time is the absolute best of all these ticket things. I'm telling you, in my opinion, and I'm not even looking at a script. And I don't know if you can tell that. It's so awesome. But I'm not even looking at a script. I'm just telling you what I think about this because I know so much about it, because I've used it so many times, and it's always bailed me out. There have been a couple of times I needed like a last-minute ticket, and Game Time was there to save me. I needed customer service one time on my screw-up. Game Time gave me good customer service. How often do you hear that anymore? So, yeah, Game Time is the way to go. Go use Game Time. You will be glad you did, and you can tell them Luke sent you, but you can also use promo code LockedOnCollege to get $20 off that first order. All right, in this third segment, Jimmy's going to give you one player that he thinks that you're going to see a lot of in the game against Michigan that you hadn't seen, and I'm going to give you one player that I think you're going to see a lot of that you hadn't seen. And then I'm going to tell you a quick Christmas story, and I'm telling you in advance right now, if you have any young children, don't let them listen because it may or may not involve a Christmas secret. And so I'm telling you now. So, Jimmy, who's your one player we're going to see a lot of that we hadn't been seeing a lot of?
Boy,
because of opt-outs or whatever.
Boy, I'm so not sure about this story. There's nothing that makes or ruins Christmas like an R-rated story.
It's not R-rated, but it's divulging top secret classified information that adults will know what I'm talking about.
Now, let me tell you my other Christmas story, and it involves Drew Barrymore also.
Oh, I would have led with that, by the way. But go ahead.
I will go with a player we haven't seen much that we're going to see a lot of in Michigan that I'm looking forward to is safety Zay Mincy. I believe, now it hasn't been released by the staff. I don't know they're going to make an announcement. They probably won't. They're probably going to play more than one guy. But I think primarily replacing Malachi Moore in the Michigan game at safety is going to be Zay Mincy. I know there are, again, other options, but I think it'll be Zay. I'm excited to see him. I mean, here's a kid who was a cornerback. We recruited him as a cornerback. He gets to Alabama, plays cornerback. He was only moved to safety because there were injuries at safety. They did not move him to safety because they didn't think he could stick at corner. They moved him to safety because we need a safety. This dude needs to be on the field. Zay's been very good. There was one bust earlier this season that, ironically, I don't really think it was Zay's bust. To be honest, I think it was Malachi's bust, which is crazy because, as we know, Malachi was in his 5th year. But Zay played really well in his limited opportunities. He's going to get a bunch of opportunities against Michigan. I think he's going to make some plays out there, and people are going to look at Zay and go, gosh, we got Sab coming back. We got Bray Hubbard coming back. Where is Zay going to play? Because we can't take him off the field. That's how good I think he's going to look against Michigan. Zay Mincy, number 12, true freshman.
Okay, that's a good call. My call is going to be Richard Young, and I think I'm so glad you chose Zay Mincy. I was like, he's going to do Richard Young, and then I want to pick somebody else, and I don't want to. And you're going to ruin Christmas. But no, you picked Zay Mincy, which I think is a good pick. But I think Richard Young's the dude. And I think here's the thing. We all love Jam Miller. But let's also be honest, Jam Miller had like dang near 30 carries against Auburn, and he didn't break 100 yards, did he? I'm not looking at the stats. So what I'm saying is he runs tough, he runs hard, all those things. You want to have the breakaway dude. Richard Young might be that guy. There have been a couple of times where he's been close to a breakaway. I want to see more speed out of him. But here's your opportunity. And with no Mason Graham for Tennessee to help with the run stuffing, with no Will Johnson to help with run support, I feel like this is going to be a good opportunity for Richard Young. I'm hoping it's not a tryout for Richard Young for another team. That's the only thing I'm hoping, because the transfer portal will still be open for him after the bowl game. I'm hoping he's here. And so let's all hope for that. But I am excited about the possibility of seeing him. That is the positive to a guy like Justice Haynes' departure, is we do get to see a little bit more of guys we maybe wanted to see more of in the middle of the year or in latter of the year. So very excited about Richard Young. That's my guy. All right, I'm giving everybody fair warning. I'm going to tell this quick story. I'm going to tell it in code as best I can without ruining the story. And some of y'all don't even like my story, so you can stop listening now. Or if you have a small child, turn it off and listen later. And here, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Long time ago, my brother was in, I think, 3rd grade, and I was in the car with my mom. And around Christmas time, we pick up my brother, who was in a despondent, sad mood. He was always the happiest little chunky kid you ever saw in your life. Just so chubby and happy. Now, he was pretty skinny as a kid. And anyway, he was very sad. And he happened to tell us, Mom said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "Mom, I just got to ask you. Some kids at school told me," I'm going to put it nicely, put it a different way so it doesn't divulge everything, told me a secret about Christmas and it makes me sad, because it makes me feel like, I've been lied to a little bit." And my mom and I both started getting choked up, and my mom started going on and on. "Well, look, Christmas is in your heart. It's about the spirit of Christmas. Christmas is about family and giving and love and caring and Jesus and blah, blah, blah. All those things. And it's about a 20-minute ride from his school to our house. And this whole time he's bawling, because it is, when you learn this secret, it can feel like almost like a death in the family. It can. It did for me. I remember I was like upset. And my mom was crying. I was a little bit teared up. I mean, it was just awful. And I hate it, because he's my youngest sibling. So that's it. Right. And we get through all this trip, and you know how kids, when they're crying, they're like, and so he got, so he's doing all that, like breathing heavy. And all of a sudden, he's calming down a little bit. My mom's calming down. We're about to pull into our driveway. I'm calmed down, and we're like, okay, we can deal with this. It's still going to be a great Christmas. My brother goes, "I guess next thing you'll tell me is there's no tooth fairy." And we were like, well, we've got to knock out some other mythological creatures here.
No, that's real.
Yeah. No, I mean, we have to, yeah, okay. I'm sorry. It was a bad day for my brother. He learned a lot of things that day, a few days before Christmas. But anyway, I always love that story. I hope Locked On doesn't fire me for talking too much. But that is a family story that I don't mind sharing with you, the people.
When I was a kid, I was freaked out that there was a strange adult man just allowed in the house. I mean,
you should have been freaked out. Jimmy, when it happened to you, it was June.
I mean, I was thinking when I was 6. It's not like I wasn't grateful for gifts on a Christmas morning, but I remember being 6 years old going, I can't believe we don't even know this guy, and he's in our house in the middle of the night.
It is a little spooky. All right. Well, but look, Jimmy and I promise you this. We wish all of you a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I'm going to say Merry Christmas because that's my thing. But Happy Holidays for everybody else. We're not here to offend anybody. We're here to tell you we love you all. We appreciate you all. Some guys have reached out to both of us via Twitter. We appreciate y'all. You don't even have to reach out. If you listen and you hate us, we thank you for listening. So we'd rather you didn't hate us, but it is what it is. So regardless, Jimmy, I think I can speak for you when I say Merry Christmas to every single one of y'all. And until next time, roll tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.